Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the decision by a 3-judge panel of the Georgia Court of Appeals, the intermediate court in Georgia, to accept Donald Trump's appeal of Judge Scott McAfee's decision declining to recuse Fani Willis and her whole office from the prosecution. So, to cut to the headline, this is more blind luck by Trump. It, as best I can tell from people who seem to know what's going on down there, blows out of the water any prospect of that case, that strong case involving so many co-defendants who, when the pressure really comes, could be called on and induced to cooperate against Trump. It means there's not going to be a trial in 2024 on this one. And just to combine things, we have the New York trial going on now, but it's far from the biggest. In fact, it's the smallest. And now Judge Cannon, we talked about this yesterday, has put the Mar-a-Lago case on ice, kind of dry ice, and it's looking grim. And then the Chutkan opinion is the Chutkan case, the January 6th case, very, very important, serious case, is held up by the Supreme Court's immunity opinion, which will probably not issue till the end of June. And all indications are it will be complicated enough to delay things. It'll really touch and go whether there's any odds that it goes to trial. In other words, this little case in New York, not so little. I don't mean to trivialize it. And here I am attending it. Fortunately, it looks like the only game in town, as someone tweeted out, our only chance for Trump to have some measure of accountability before the election. And Cannon is blind luck for him. That's a very strong case against him that just won't go forward. And now this. Certainly by no effort or much less legal strategy of his part, he got the great good fortune of having Fani Willis act really unprofessionally and bring on to the case or appoint from within the case a man she was having an affair with, Mr. Wade, as we've heard about. And we had a case that was moving pretty quickly, just was completely off tracks for a couple months, while Scott McAfee had an evidentiary hearing to sort of go over things, including Trump and company. It was actually originally another defendant who brought the motion, allegation that Wade and Willis, it became a whole question when their relationship had started and whether they were completely truthful and the like. But at the end of the day, he made, I think, the only decision that makes any sense, which is why this determination today by the Georgia Court of Appeals, which has discretion whether to take the case. McAfee agreed with Trump to serve it up to them, which he needed to do, but I was surprised because so let's go back to McAfee's decision. It was two parts. Part 2 is where he said there is an appearance of impropriety based on the relationship, and in order to cure it, either Wade had to step down or Willis had to, and her whole office had to withdraw. That's very easy choice, and it followed in short order when Wade stepped away. And that's something that, the only, so that's half of the opinion. The other half of the opinion was the decision not to recuse Willis, and the reasoning of McAfee seemed pretty unassailable to me. What he said is, you may recall, though, that Wade and Willis have a relationship. There's a lot of cash involved in Willis's payment. She had a kind of swashbuckling, assertive testimony about, how she's always kind of carried cash, and her father, and taught her in romantic situations to always have the wherewithal to walk. Anyway, it was a pretty aggressive and sort of assertive testimony that a lot of people thought worked pretty well. But in any event, I thought McAfee made the only decision he could, and it was very sensible. He said there's no financial conflict of interest, and that under the statute is what you need to recuse her. And really all what they could come up with were basically an idea that, Wade's salary is paid by Georgia DA's office, and she has control of that. And then she kind of, feathers her own nest, because then when they go on trips, he pays for dessert or whatever. The testimony unrebutted was that it's basically was shared, but you could imagine the argument that in some small way, money that she had authority over kind of came back to her. But McAfee said very sensibly, that's not a financial conflict of interest of the sort that could possibly justify recusal. For recusal, what you really need is some conflict that compromises the DA or whoever is being analyzed in her or his ability to do their job. So if you have some financial motivation that makes you want to, say, string along the case, or in some way not aggressively prosecute, okay. But the fact that she's in a relationship and some amount of money comes her way just was not reasonably, and I think this is just true in a commonsensical way, give some argument that she didn't do her job of prosecuting Trump as she otherwise would have. So that part is the part that Trump has appealed. He said, no, you should have recused her. The second part, which is when he basically said either Wade or Willis has to go, that sort of went against the DA's office. They would be the one to appeal it. So really what's there is some argument that she herself should have been recused. Now, I don't see it very well at all, and yet McAfee approved its going up, and the Georgia Court of Appeals just taken the case. And so, it's a disaster at worst, I guess, but a very bad situation at best. It means no trial. But then if they actually find that there's some conflict or they reverse in some way, that means Willis and her office are out of the case. So you start from square one and find another prosecuting office. In the meantime, Willis is very much embroiled in Georgia politics and electoral politics. Both she and McAfee are up for election in 2024, and she is very much in the sights of the Republican-dominated legislature, which has a couple committees that are already looking at her as they, and the Republican House of Representatives has got into the act. Jim Jordan is subpoenaing her about certain things. So, this, what might have seemed at first just a kind of foolish slip up and an ill-advised relationship has metastasized and made it, I would say, a certainty that we're not going to get trial this year. And it's, again, we started out with a lot of defendants, and as they pushed closer to trial, people were pleading out. And these were people, including Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows, who had a lot they could possibly say and cooperate with respect to Trump about. The few people who have pleaded, who know sort of where those things even stand, because the bigger proceeding involving Trump is now on ice. So there's, till after the election in any event, and there's, it's a state case. A president can't pardon it, but if Trump wins, I just think we have to consider all bets are off, at least during the time that he's president. So if they take it and actually reverse and make her leave the case, and we're at square one, who knows if the pieces are ever put together again. So this decision, it's sort of curt and elliptical. They just say we'll accept the appeal, and everything else kind of comes from knowledge of Georgia appellate practice, is foreboding, and it's as part of a week in which not great things have happened in Mar-a-Lago, and part of an overall month where not great things have happened with respect to the January 6th trial. And so all in all, we see Donald Trump in the defendant's chair, and he's very ill-suited to it. And there's a lot of ways in which it diminishes him and makes him possibly accountable. This is the New York case. But it looks like that really is all we will see before November. And it's a shame. Some of it is his doing, you could say, in his choice of canon as a judge. Some of it is blind luck. I would say he's, that's what you would have to call Fulton County. But be that as it may, we are, not going to see him. It looks increasingly unlikely that we'll see him in any trial after this one in New York. And there's, some prospect that remains maybe for the January 6th trial, but both Mar-a-Lago and Fulton County are looking pretty remote. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.